Hello, everyone. Welcome to Worksighted Next, another webinar that we have today. If you haven't been to Worksighted, or you have been on Worksighted Next before, you'll note that we're using a new platform today. So let us know how your experience is. We'd love to hear feedback from you as always. So my name is Adam Devereaux. I'm the Cloud and Security Manager here at Worksighted. And today we're going to talk about tasks and to-dos, and I feel like I'm going to use those words a lot, so please bear with me. And specifically Microsoft 365 and the various resources that Microsoft makes available to help manage those that workload. So if you haven't joined us for Worksighted Next webinar previously, the idea here is we really want this to be interactive. So there is a Q&A section. We're going to be putting some polls in as well. Please feel free to ask questions as we go along. I do have a lot of content that's demo heavy, so I'm going to get through that first, and then we'll do the Q&A afterwards. And since it's demo heavy, hopefully Murphy's Law of Webinars is with us today, and those all go off without a hitch. So the reason why we wanted to talk about this today is that not only have we seen a lot of organizations struggle with keeping track of all of the different tasks and assignments, internal projects. It's something that we've struggled with, I've struggled with personally. There's lots of ways that people will give you things that you need to do, let alone yourself as you're going throughout your day. It could be via email, chat, in the hallway. How do you keep track of these things? And a lot of organizations have adopted a lot of wide variety of tool sets, which often has exacerbated the issue because now I've got another place I have to go and track things. So what some of those, example, Asana, Monday, Trello, all these various applications, what we think is unique about Microsoft's vision is the way that it's tied into the rest of the Microsoft 365 platform. And it gives an opportunity to potentially consolidate and give a comprehensive experience for people. So we're going to start with an overview of all of the different applications and talk about what you might use when. So the big four in Microsoft 365 are related to To-Do, Planner, there's a new Tasks and Teams, and then Lists. So really the three main components are To-Do, Planner, and Lists. And Tasks and Teams is not quite available yet, but it's going to be a new experience within Microsoft Teams that bring these together in a more cohesive interface. So why might you pick one versus the other? All right, so To-Do is largely focused on the individual. So you can kind of think of this like the OneDrive for task management. So it's really something that you and everyone within your organization has their own individual To-Do. What's awesome about To-Do is it's also free for anyone to use. You don't have to be on Office 365, Microsoft 365 to have access to it. And the mobile app is fantastic, and I'll show that off as well. There's ways that you can extend this, but I think this is probably one of the ways, one of the highest value things. If you adopt this right off the bat, you're probably going to find, personally, I've benefited greatly from To-Do. So Planner is a Kanban style project management where you have different buckets. There's really a couple different ways that you can use that, and we'll go into the specifics. But it really is meant for more team when you're managing a project or when you want to track work in progress. Lists, well, if you're familiar with SharePoint, you probably know that lists in SharePoint have been around for a long, long time. So really this is extending and building on that history of lists in SharePoint and providing a new rich experience and new ways that you can interact with that and provide really a lot more power to the everyday person to deal with those. And then finally, tasks, again, is a way that you can manage those within Microsoft Teams and make it easy for people to find what it is that they need to do. So Microsoft To-Do. Let me switch over here and make sure I'm sharing my screen. All right, so this demo is going to be in the web apps version. So this is where a lot of the newest features are often available. And I'm logging into a demo tenant here as Alex Wilbur, who's a marketing assistant within Contoso Electronics. So I'm at office.com. You can go to portal.office.com. There's a lot of other ways to access these web services. And you'll note if I go to my all apps here, I have all of these different various things that are in Microsoft 365. And you'll note that here is Outlook, here's Planner, here is OneDrive, here's To Do, and there's something missing, which is Lists. So when we talk about that, I'll show you how to get to it. It is being released right now, being rolled out by the end of September. It's supposed to be live in all Office 365 tenants. As of right now, it really will only be accessible if your tenant is fully set to what's called targeted release mode. And that's not very common. A lot of tenants have specific users that are in targeted release mode. Not a lot of tenants tend to have all users enrolled in that. That means that you get access to the latest features, but it could be a little bit buggier. So a lot of organizations err on the side of dealing with, kind of the main release. So, but I'll show you how to see that. So first thing we're going to do is go to Do. I have that open here. So in To Do, the interface has three main areas. On the left, we have My Day and a couple of other areas that we can click into, and then our tasks here. So we're going to start from the very beginning. We're going to create a new task. So I'm just going to type in any task here. And just hit enter. So now I've created a task in my main task list here, and I can click into that. And then on the right, I now have different options with this. So I can add to my day, I can add a step. And if I add a step, what I'm doing here is I'm creating subtasks. And I can continue. These are basically ways that it's broken down. I'm creating a checklist of things that I need to do to complete this task underneath it. And now I can not only check off the task, but I can check off the individual things as I'm working through this. Now I can also add a reminder. So I can say, let's say later today at 3 p.m. I can set this task to repeat. Maybe this is something that I need to do daily. And I can set a due date on here as well. Now, one of the most powerful features of To Do that I really personally get a lot of value from is called My Day. So with My Day, you have the ability to try to sort through a giant task list. So something I've struggled with in the past with various to-do platforms is that they'll often have, I'll get a good start with it, but then the list itself, all of the tasks that I create in there gets so large that it's kind of, where do you start, right? So My Day is a way that you can filter those. You can filter through your task list, and you can pick what you're going to focus on that day, and then that resets every night, and you can then focus on the next set of things the next day. So there's a few more things about this specific to-do that I want to point out. So one is that we can pick a category, and you can kind of customize these to be what you want. So I'm going to say this is a yellow category. I can attach files here, and I can also add notes. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to My Day so you can just see what that looks like. Here's the task that I have added to My Day. Also, because this has a due date on it, it's now in planned. So when I, let's say, want to go a little further with these tasks and I want to sort them out, I can create custom lists. So let's say I want even a personal one in here. I can add grocery. And as I create tasks for myself, I can add these to these various lists to help myself categorize what it is and where that particular task is grouped by. Now I can also change the theme on these as well. So if I want to kind of color these, and let's say pick up milk. Now there's another thing here that you can do, which is called share. I'm not going to go heavily into that, but you can share lists between people of tasks, and that's a way that you can manage. It's really more like personal collaboration with an individual, one other person. It's not really ideal for group tasks, though you can use it for that. We'll get more into why Planner would be a better choice for that in the future here. There's a couple of other ones that are really powerful as well. In the left here, one is assigned to you and the other is flagged email. Now, the way that this works is that due to the integration between To-Do and Outlook, when you flag an email in Outlook, whether it's on your mobile client or on your desktop or in the web version, it will show up in this list. So I can add this to my To-Do just by clicking the flag, and then in a short period of time, it will end up showing up in my flagged email list. Now, I'm going to go to the My Day here and show you a couple of other things that we can do. So we can sort this. Let's say that I want to, I'm going to add a few more in here. Now I can add more details on these if I want to, but it allows me also to sort these by alphabetical, by the date that it was created, by the importance if I'm assigning that. So I can say this one's important and it's going to show up at the top. I can also sort by due date if I'm assigning a due date on all of these different aspects here. And then to clear that, I just click the X. So if I want to move a task, let's say I'm in the task list here and I want to move something. Let's say I want, this is related to marketing. I can just click and drag it over to marketing. So one of the newer features with To-Do is the integration with Outlook on the web. So I mentioned that you can flag an email, and that is a universal way that you can add things to your To-Do. But there's another way that you can do that, and that's up here on the top right hand. Right here, it's this little check mark. And this is a way that I can see my calendar and To-Do easily here. Now, what's awesome about this is I can just click and drag to add a email conversation as either a task or an event. So I'm going to add it as a task, and now it's here in my task list. You can reverse that around because it also integrates with the calendar. And if I flip over to that, I also get the same task list here, and I can just click and drag that to my day and add it. Now, let's say that I switch to a work week view. If I want, I can click and drag this to 1 p.m. there. Now I've scheduled on my calendar to work on that task, which helps a lot to make sure that you're staying on track of all the various things that you need to do and block out time during your day. So I think this is really a best practice to make sure that we're staying on top of those things, because ultimately a lot of the urgent fires that come up really can be distracting, and blocking time out is essential, as most of you already know. So I'm going to go back here, go back to the main list. Another thing that is an important section is this assign to you. And that really kind of takes us to Planner. So what shows up here is tasks that are assigned to you inside of Planner, and they'll show up in your To-Do. So what is Planner, you might ask? Well, it is a, as I said, Kanban style interface where I can create a plan and then I can create different buckets. So I'm going to create a new plan. And I have a couple different options when I do this. I can create it as private or public, and I can add a description here as well if I want. You'll note I have a reminder here because I added this in the past for that task that I gave myself. So here you can see it starts off very simple. I just have a single bucket. I can add a task. And I can assign this task. So I'm going to click into this one here. I can edit these task details, so I can assign this to someone. So I'm going to assign it to Megan. And because Megan is not a member of this plan, because it's my personal plan, it's going to ask me if I want to assign this plan to her so she sees this as well, which I do. So now we're both working on this. So I can say that this is not started yet. It's a medium importance. I can pick a start time. Let's say I want this to start tomorrow, and it's due next week, Thursday. So again, just like in To-Do, I can create a checklist of sub-items. So the best way to think of this is a larger item that we can, like a meta task, and then we can have subtasks underneath that. I can attach documents, files, links, SharePoint. And I can also label this. Now, these are customizable, so this is just a color right now, but I can say, let's say this is critical, maybe yellow is something related to customer facing, whatever labels I want that make sense to me and my team, I can set those right there. Now, once I'm back at the main view, I can also label these as those colors easily here. I can assign it to multiple people. So let's say I want to also add myself to this. Now we're both on this. I can copy a link to it. I can copy this task over and over. And I'm going to show you what the buckets. Now, what a Kanban board is outside of the scope of this webinar, certainly. But the reason I said there's kind of two ways that we can use this is that the original intent of a Kanban board is that the buckets represent the steps in production along the way of you doing something. And then the cards, which is what these are, would move through. So it starts, oftentimes what this would actually be is something along the lines of backlog. These are the things that haven't been working on yet. This is ready to start. This would be in progress. And then you would create buckets in theory for all of the different steps along the way. Maybe it's departments, but all of the different work steps that something needs to go through to get to what the final output is. So another common one is blocked for some reason. We can't move forward on that. And then completed. So really between, it flows from start to finish. And here we would build this out and add more between in progress and completed. We would add more steps along that way. And then as I have a card, I can move this and say, all right, I've got bandwidth. I want to work on this. It's in the ready to start. And then I'm going to move it over to in progress. Now I'm going to work on this thing. And then as I move these through, they get done. Now, the reason why that's powerful ultimately is it can be very easy to visualize and understand where things are getting held up. The other way that's very common is really more where you're using the buckets to categorize the different types of tasks. And this is kind of an example of that. Here's to-dos, here is presentation, press, venue, and different things that are categorized as different types of tasks within here. Now, if we're going to go into one of these here, we can see here's a file that's attached. You can click show on card, so that way it's present right here, and it's easy to click into this. But because all of these have different dates that they're assigned, whether they're in progress or not, the chart and schedule view become a lot more powerful because I can see how many tasks are in progress, how many of them have not even been started, how many of them are late. The red is not good. I'm not doing so great here. I've got 2 in the red and 1 I haven't even started yet. And then I can also look at the schedule and see where people are on track with these, where they're scheduled. All right, so ultimately, now that I've set up to do to show me assigned to me, if I click into here now, I can see all of these different items that are in plans. And what's awesome about this is it shows me all of the different tasks that I'm assigned to that are in a variety of plans. So you'll know I have this check launch date here under my example plan. I also have a lot under me on this event plan, but under my to-do, I have both plans there, both lists, all of the different things, and it shows here where that is being assigned to me. So this is under example plan, here's event plan, here's IT, and I can click on each one of these. I can add them to my day, I can add steps to them, I can add due dates, and I can also just click and open in Planner and then go right to that to-do. So again, how you get to Planner is from your all apps, just click on Planner and that will take you to your Planner homepage. And you'll see that it's showing me plans that are either my plans or plans that are in, let's say, a team or SharePoint site that I'm accessing. All right, I'm going to show you a little bit on the mobile interface on both of those. All right, so on my phone here, I've got the To-Do app that I've already downloaded and signed into with my Office 365 credentials, and we're going to start there. So on To-Do, it's a very similar interface. It's asking me, and this is common when you first launch To-Do, it will also ask you if you want to create the flagged email. So the list did not pull that in previously due to the fact that I didn't have that turned on. And I can show you too how you can manually enable that. So these are called smart lists, and you can see that there's one called important, planned, and assigned to you, and there's some other smart lists that you can enable. And the two important ones are the planned and assigned to you. And then here we want to make sure that planner and flag emails are also turned on. So if you ever launch it for the first time and it says you just hit skip and you forgot to turn that on, if you click up in the top left here on your initials and then go down to your smart list and connected apps, that's how you turn that on. So the same thing here, I can go to my day, I can go into my tasks, I can basically do everything that I can in the web application. And I can look at the smart suggestions here by clicking on the light bulb, and it will give me some suggestions of things that I need to get done. And it's very easy to either create a new list, or let's say I go to my tasks and I just want to create a new task right in here. I'm going to explain planner. All right, so now going back to the home screen, you can see now I have a planner app. And very similar to the web version, I have the Planner Hub that I can see all of the different plans that I have that I'm a member of or that I've recently used. So I can click See All Plans. Here's other plans that I did not go into previously. Here's the IT plan. And right here on the right, I can click that star, and that's going to favorite that plan so that I can easily access it in the future. And then here on this, my task screen, I can see the ones that I haven't started yet, the ones that I have in progress. And I can go into these and basically complete all the same, do all the same things I could before. So I'm going to go into this event plan, and then here are the various buckets that I can basically click and drag those between the buckets. See, it's very similar, very powerful mobile screen or mobile interface. Works really just as well as the website, but it lets you have very flexible and easy access to those interfaces. All right. So the trickiest one is going to be tasks and teams, and we'll talk about that at the end here. The next one that I want to talk about is lists. The first thing that I want to talk about is how you get to Microsoft Lists. So there's a little bit of a workaround that you can try, and if it works for you, it works for you. You'll note that on this main screen, I don't have this icon for lists, right? So here up on the screen, there's this is what the icon looks like. And you'll see it in the presentation. The way that I can get to this is if I click on OneDrive, wait for that to load up here in the address bar where it says onedrive.aspx. I'm just going to replace the word OneDrive with lists, and then it'll take me to my lists homepage. So a little bit of a hack. Again, if you don't have lists, if you go to OneDrive, you type that in, it'll probably just take you to a blank page. Within the next few weeks, it should be rolling out to your tenant. So I'm going to go into this 2020 webinar planning. It's in the sales and marketing team, Sharepoint, but it's associated with the team. I can click star if I want to favorite it. I'm going to click into that here. Now, this is a list that basically has, I'm managing an event, right? So I'm going to go back a minute and show you guys some of the different templates that are in here. What lists are very flexible. So I can't give you one simple answer because you can create the columns to be whatever you want. And it's very similar to a spreadsheet, but more powerful. And they give you some various templates that are within here. So if I go to issue tracker, here's some example template columns, and it shows you an example of how to use these. So issue tracker, employee onboarding, event itinerary, and you can use these templates. And if you create one from this, so I'll just create event itinerary here, and I'm saving this to my lists, right? So I can either go to recent sites or I can save to my lists, and then that gives me the option to put different colors, different icons. And this is stored basically in my personal lists. Now, you can see now that I have all of the columns that are in that template. and the different column types that are pre-created, but it didn't bring the content over, which I kind of wish they did. It would be nice if they kept the content to give you a little bit more of an example. So I'm going to go back to this 2020 webinar planning and kind of explain a little bit more about what lists are about. So you can see here we have a list of our 2020 webinars. So these are the ones that we've done previously this year, and then we have ones that are coming up yet. So we have who the host is going to be. You can see that these people don't actually exist. It's going to be myself and others here at Worksighted. We have the status, so these are completed, and this one's in progress. When the promos begin, when it goes live, the category, whether it's been posted or not, and we can add more columns in here. Now, up on the top, we've got a couple different quick ways that we can change these. So I can click into them. And let's say I want to change the productivity tools one that we're talking about right now. And at the end of the event, I want to say that it's changed, right? So I can go into it and I can edit it and I can change the status on it, but that's a little clumsier. This is more of the advanced way of accessing it. The easiest way is if I click out and just click this quick edit, now I can edit this list right in here. And it's a lot more powerful. So I can just click on this and I can click the drop down and say that this is now complete. Now, if I want to add an additional column in here, I can click the plus and I can say what type of column I want this to be. Maybe it's a location. And this would allow me to put in where it's going to be shot. And in this case, it's actually pulling this from Bing locations. So I'm going to say Worksighted. There. Now it's at our main office here in Holland. So what's really powerful about lists is the flexibility. It allows you to really change a lot about the columns themselves. It allows me to filter. Maybe I want to see just the things that are related to Microsoft Teams. Maybe I want to arrange them by the type of category. And I can share this list. And there's a couple ways that I can share it. I can share it just by adding somebody to the list. Let's say I'll add Diego to it. I can say whether or not he can edit it, whether he has full control over it, or if he can just view it. And let's say I just want him to be able to view it. And he's going to receive a notification that he has received this list. The other way that's really powerful about lists is to embed them in Teams. So I'm going to switch over to Microsoft Teams here. And the easy way to access that, again, go back here, click on Teams. And I've got the various teams that I'm a member of. And you'll note here that up on the top, we have our different tabs that are associated with this general channel. And there's this 2020 webinar planning list. So right in here, I have the list that Rebecca has created. I can create new items right in Microsoft Teams. I can do quick edit just the same. This is actually, I think, when it rolls out, the interface may be a little bit more integrated, but it works well now. And I'll show you how to add one of these. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this. Now I'm not deleting the list. I'm simply removing it from the channel. So I'm going to add that again. So I'm going to click the plus button. It's going to go to add a tab, and I'm going to click on Sharepoint. And when I click this, it gives me both different pages, but it also gives me lists. And you can see here it's showing me recent lists that I've accessed, and I can click that 2020 webinar planning. And then it will not only add this up here, but it will also put a post in the channel here saying, I've added a new tab to the top of this channel. Here's a link. And it's just that easy. All right, so a little bit more on lists that can get a little bit more in depth and probably out of the scope of what we can talk about here. But it really comes down to the integration with the rest of the Microsoft 365 platform. So in the bar up here on the top, we have a couple different options. One is that you can create alerts around different things when items will change. So I could say alert me by email when a new item has been added. You could send me an alert when someone else changes an item. You can send me a notification immediately, or you could send me a daily or weekly summary so that I can see what all of the different changes are. Now up here also we have Powerapps and Automate. And again, if you're familiar with SharePoint lists, you'll recognize these. What both of these are part of the Power Platform within Microsoft 365. Automate is the ability to create if this, then that type flows. It was previously called Microsoft Flow, and it allows you to do things, and I'll show you kind of some of the examples here. I'm going to create a flow associated with this, and it gives me some template ones here. I could send a customized email. I could start an approval. I could request an approval in Teams. These are very powerful, but as of right now, it's also fairly complicated. So this is the template item that I'm going to pull in here, and you can see it needs permission into SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, Office 365. Again, this is built into Microsoft 365. It's built on the same security platform. There's really no security concerns about accessing this information because it's all within the same platform. And as I said, there's a lot of power here. I can really do a lot of different things. But in here, I would say that this is a webinar approval, and I can add in somebody's email. So I'm going to say Megan Bowen. Now that's really all I need to do at the moment because everything else is pre-filled, and I can save that. All right, so Powerapps is a way that you can create a much more powerful interface around this list. So a Power App is designed for me to be able to create literally an app that users within my organization can access to interact with this form. Perhaps I want to create something that's easier to use. Maybe it's for a certain role within my organization that they need to be able to access this. And Powerapps really has almost unlimited flexibility. It just grows from here in terms of how you can access or what kind of Powerapps you can create, what kind of information you can pull together. Definitely outside of the scope of what we want to talk about today, but it goes to show how essentially this is part of the Microsoft 365 platform. It's all extensible through the Graph API. It's all information sources that can be accessed and used in a variety of different ways. So I mentioned filtering over here. I just wanted to show I can quickly also make some changes to the way that I'm viewing this. So I could make it a compact list, full list, and I can also filter, and I just want to see the things that are associated to Megan, what the category is, the ones that are completed, and it also gives me some other smart content things related to like the dates. Great. So I'm sure you'll probably have some questions. The sky is really limit. It's really very collaborative. It's very powerful for managing different types of events that you might have. If you are tracking a new launch of a new initiative, a new product, something opening, those are perfect examples of how lists can be a very powerful way of sharing and quickly creating a lot of different tasks and things that need to be done and who it's assigned to, who needs to work on it, and what the status of all of those are. So we're going to talk about tasks in Microsoft 365. And the tricky part there is we can't really show it. So I had hoped that it would be available within Teams, but we can kind of talk about what it's going to be and why you would use that or how it ties things together. And that's really more the point of tasks. It's another renaming, which could be confusing, but from what we've seen, it should be a considerable improvement to the experience around managing these different locations that you can have things to do in. So between To Do and Planner, essentially what tasks in Teams will allow you to do is access those both your personal tasks that's powered by To Do, shared tasks, and it will allow you to access and create easy to access task lists for workers to, or your coworkers to be able to organize around based on a team structure. So we have some screenshots here that Microsoft has released. And we also have a video that we want to show you that's related to tasks. So here's kind of an example. Here's teams. Here's tasks that are in here. These are ultimately it's actually going to roll out in a couple of stages as well. So right now in Teams, and I can show you what that looks like. You can click Planner within Teams and access. This is another way that you can get to Planner. Am I still sharing? Let me share my screen. So I'm going to go to Microsoft Teams in the browser. This is true for the web client as well. Now, for me, I had to basically click into the 3 dots here. If you don't see Planner on the left, then you should see it right here and click Planner. So if I click that, I now see Planner, and you'll note I get a little message here saying coming soon, your individual tasks from To-Do and your team tasks from Planner will all be together in Teams. So it's actually not going to be renamed. It's a new interface launch where they're bringing the To-Do tasks into Planner. So it'll be called Planner, and then it will be tasks powered by To-Do and Planner or something along those lines, and then eventually it'll just be called tasks. So I think by the end of the year, we should see that completed. But this is essentially how you would access that, and you're going to be able to embed task lists within Teams. And from the looks of things, it's going to be a lot more flexible in how you view those as well. Right, so we'll go ahead and play that video now and see. Let's see how this goes.
Productive. Keep a team organized on any device. Since tasks are integrated in Microsoft 365, you can start using them today. Stay on top of your tasks with Microsoft 365.
All right. So I just want to go back to the 4. We're a little ahead on time, which is a change for once. I just wanted to reiterate going back to what we talked about here. So we talked about To-Do, which is really ideal for those individual managing your workload and the tasks that are coming your way. Then we have Planner. I know people that use Planner as an individual because it gives them more power, more control over their own processes. You're welcome to do that, of course, as you can use Planner for yourself. But it is really ideal for that team task management, especially related to kind of a project or something that you're working on. Lists is very similar, but it's a different interface and a different way of creating that. One thing I didn't talk about is that you can easily import existing Excel files into lists and create a list out of an Excel file. And then the last one, the mystery one, is tasks in Teams, and the way that Microsoft is going to be tying all of that together in certainly what they've been talking about for a while appears to be a much more cohesive experience. So with that, we're going to flip over to our Q&A section. So Rebecca, do we have any questions?
We do have a couple questions. So first up, we have Betsy asked, wondering if Adam has advice on which of these options would best fit for tracking onboarding for new hires. We currently use Monday and want to use Microsoft apps.
Yeah, so Monday is another great one. It's very powerful. I think if you're using Monday now in a list format, I think lists is going to be the best way, or at least the probably most comparable. You know, if we go back to that lists view when you first create one, that is actually one of their example lists that you can create, is a recruitment tracker or an employee onboarding tracker. And you may be able to export, if you're using a different system, you may be able to export existing lists as an Excel document and then import that into lists to quickly create those. The other thing to consider, that really this is an example of how it can tie into something much larger. If you haven't seen it yet, I would recommend that you all take a look at the Microsoft Sharepoint Lookbook site. And there's a lot of good examples of different types of SharePoint sites that you can use. So it's lookbook.microsoft.com. And if you go and you can see the examples, is my screen sharing right now? Yeah, okay. So these are different templates that Microsoft has created to kind of inspire organizations to see what they can do with SharePoint. There's a couple different example sites that are under different columns here. So these are kind of the classic intranet, leadership, communication. If you go to department, then there's the Human Resources Hub. And lots of different examples of things that you can use. There is also the new employee onboarding hub, or what they call the Neo Hub. So this is under the solutions. They have the learnings pathway, and this Neo Hub is really an interesting idea that they recently released. It's actually 4 different templates that shows you, basically you have a SharePoint that's dedicated towards pre-onboarding, onboarding, and then one for as once you're an ongoing employee, kind of your extended onboarding experience. So definitely check that out and see if it's something that would help as well. All right, next question.
Are To-Do and Planner apps included in the most basic 365 subscriptions, or are they separate subscriptions?
So they are included in nearly all Microsoft 365, Office 365 subscriptions. So really starting at Microsoft 365 Basic, which is the $5 plan in the business plan, and then Enterprise E1 and above as well. There are a few licenses that don't include that, like Exchange Kiosk, which is kind of rare to be using, but there are companies out there that have that for some employees. And if you are using that now, there are alternative licenses under the first line worker SKUs like F1 and F3 that I'd recommend as an alternative that would give you access to these. So the answer is generally yes, it is included in the base Office 365 licensing. And in fact, To-Do is free. You don't even need an Office 365 license to use To-Do. You can just go to todo.microsoft.com and use a Microsoft login and use the app yourself. So obviously it would not be tied into the rest of the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, but it works great even if you're a non-Microsoft user.
Great. This one is something that we talked a lot about over the last 2 weeks. It's from Jen. Planner and lists seem pretty similar to me. How would you decide which apps to use for different projects or items?
Yeah, so one thing is that it could just be personal preference. So the interface is quite different between them. Lists is powerful in its flexibility, but it is a list, right? And so if that interface makes sense to you, if it looks like something that's what you want to work with in terms of tracking, another comparable would be something like Smartsheet, where you're working in that kind of table format and you're changing the status on various things, and that's how people are interacting with that list. So that can be powerful, but the advantage on the planner side is it's more visual. It will give you the ability to see in a graphical way the status of things. You can see the charts, and it's easier for people to self-manage. And if they're using To-Do right now, if you have To-Do adoption, or if you think that it's going to be useful, and out of this you're going to adopt To-Do or have people adopt To-Do, that's when both are powerful combined, because of that ability to add people to plans and then have it show up in their To-Do under their planned smart list. So, it can be a bit of personal preference, but I would say that if you are heavily using To-Do right now, the integration between Planner and To-Do is pretty powerful, and I would recommend in that direction. But if you like the interface on lists, the flexibility, the ability to kind of continue to create and modify your column as you need and see fit, then go with that.
Great. Next up, we have, can these apps be dragged to your screen or taskbar at the bottom of your screen?
So To-Do does have a native Windows application. So this can be added through the Microsoft Store. And I would recommend getting it. It works really well. Planner and lists are only accessible through Microsoft Teams, the Microsoft Teams application that runs on your computer, or through the web. And of course, you could put these on your desktop, right? And the simple way that you can do that is that you can just kind of click and drag to the desktop. And then now I'm going to have an icon on my desktop for this 2020 webinar planning. And if I click on that, it takes me right to it. I could do the same thing. What I'd recommend is potentially doing that for your Office 365 homepage. Create that as a shortcut on your desktop. There's one other thing too, that is the Office application that you can download from the Microsoft Store. And it's basically like Microsoft 365 in the browser, but an icon on your computer. And it will take you right to this here.
Can you try it on your desktop one more time, a little bit slowly?
Yep. So I'm going to do that with this office.com. And in this case, I'm going to click on the lock icon, and then I'm just going to drag that over. And you can see now my icon has changed, or my cursor has changed. It shows what it's going to create, and then it's going to create a little shortcut. Now, the reason why it didn't work is, and I can click on this and it will now, is it will take me to my Worksighted email account homepage here, or my Office homepage, because I'm logged into the demo tenant in a private window here. So hopefully that helps. It's some easy ways. If you want to access this, just go to your start menu, type in store. It'll take you to the Microsoft Store. You will have to sign in with a Microsoft account, and then you can download the Office app. And if you don't have the Office app on your mobile device, I would highly recommend that you get that as well. It is definitely the best mobile experience around productivity that I've had yet. It gives you a lot of powerful things like taking photos of a piece of paper and converting that into a OCR Word document, creating an Excel document out of a table that's on a piece of paper. It gives you quick and easy access to recent files that you've accessed that are stored within OneDrive or Sharepoint, and it really gives you an easy experience to get access to that information. So hopefully that helps.
Okay, next up we have, will this version of To Do become available in the desktop version of Outlook?
I would say nearly 100% yes. What I've seen is that, well, there's a couple things to note. One is that there are different release tracks for Office. So there's, as an organization, you can set whether or not you want to be on the quarterly release, or there's basically an insider release where you can get access to the newest features. I'm on the insider release on my desktop Outlook. I don't have it yet. I believe it's on the roadmap, but I don't have a set date on that right now. But make sure that you are using Office 365 on your desktop as well. If you have Office 2013, Office 2016, Office 2019, not the Office 365 that you get through your Office licensing, you will never get it, right? Because that is a fixed product at the point of release, and these types of features, these integrations, aren't backported to old versions of Office. So that's the one other thing is I'd make sure is as these features do become available, they will be made available to Office 365 licensed desktop applications. But I personally have used the web version of Outlook more and more. It is definitely where the newest features and capabilities come along, and it's really superior in search, in my experience, than using the desktop version.
I can agree with that.
All right.
All right. So,
Great.
What was that?
We've had a lot of questions, I was just going to say. So I'm glad for, or thanks for everyone for, making this interactive.
Of course. Yeah, I've got a couple more to go over. Brenna asked, can you copy a card into multiple buckets? For example, if you want to share a planner with others for, say, employee onboarding, can you copy one instead of making a new card every time? Also, can you make cards without finishing dates so you can use the card repeatedly?
So the answer is yes to both. So I can create a task in here, and I don't have to set a due date on it. I can create this as, let's say it's a reoccurring one, like check voicemail. And I want to give this to everyone, right? So I can create that just by typing in the task name. I don't have to assign it to anyone. It's a very simplistic card at this point. And I can change some properties around it. Again, if I go into that, I can change the priority on it. I can add multiple checklist items. I can add attachments to it. I can flag it. And then when you go to it, the ellipses here, the 3 dots, you can click on that and hit copy task. You can copy this within the same plan, or you can actually copy it to other plans. So I will go to this example plan. I'll pick the bucket that I want, and I can copy some of the task information across the group. I can't copy the assignment because oftentimes there's different groups of people that are on different plans, so that could kind of break things. But the progress, the dates, the description, the checklist would carry over with that copy. So now if I go to the example plan, now here's check voicemail under the ready to start. And then now here, I can quickly assign to somebody that's within this team. Great.
Great. Does the basic Outlook tasks function integrate with Planner the same way that To-Do does?
No. So I cannot click and drag into Planner right now. So this is a To-Do limited functionality. So I can say, I want to check out this document that's been shared, or I want to check out this to-do list. I'm going to add that as a task. This is tied to my personal to-do, not Planner. But that doesn't mean I can't share it with people. So let's say I go into this, check out this list for planning a webinar. I can click and drag this to a shared list and add somebody to that list as well so that they can access that. But that is a clear differentiator between them, is whether or not they integrate with Outlook at this point. And that's a pretty recent integration. So I can't say that that will never happen, but at this point, it is limited to your to-dos that you create. So hopefully that helps.
Quick back to Planner. Can you copy the buckets, or do you need to copy task by task?
That's a good question. I don't think you can copy the buckets.
What about up top, where by schedule?
Oh, well, so you can't copy the buckets, but this is an important point, and that's a great question, is that you can copy entire plans. So I can export the plan to Excel, but if I create an example plan as a template, and I create all the buckets, and I can even create some of my basic tasks that are in there, I can copy this and I can put it somewhere else, right? So I can move it into, let's say I've got a standard product launch plan template, and I'm going to copy this into the retail one, and I'm going to say I want to copy over everything. The only thing I can't bring over in this case is attachments, and I copy that. Actually, I think that may be related to the fact that I don't have an attachment on here. So let me just try this. No, it still doesn't allow me to do that. So that's actually a really powerful feature, is the ability to copy, basically create template plans and move those over. So a couple other items on here. If we go into the settings on the plan, we can edit the group that's assigned on this. We can send an email to the group when a task is assigned or completed. But I would generally avoid that because it's going to create a lot of noise. And if people are using To-Do, they're really going to have a better experience around accessing it that way. One other thing that's really, I didn't really touch on, and I'll show under the event plan here, is that I also have the ability to change my view, so I can group it by who they're assigned to. So I can see all of the tasks that are assigned based on who they're assigned to. I can track them by progress and see the ones that haven't been started versus the ones that are in progress versus completed. I can sort them by due date. I can sort them by the labels that they've been assigned, which ends up being pretty powerful if you customize those labels to things that make sense to you. And I can also group them by the priority. And if I want, I can filter them to see things that are just late, for example. So let's say I want to see the late tasks and who they're assigned to. You can do that. Or if I want to only see the ones that Adele is assigned to, I can click that filter as well. So you can just kind of click in and pick different filters. You can basically stack them. So I could see what are the ones that Adele has this week. And I can also click on members and see all of the different members of this team. Now the membership associated with this, because it's inside of a team. It's actually stored in the group that underlies a team that was created. The membership to access this plan is the same membership as that Microsoft team itself. So hopefully that may not directly answer your question, or it answers it, but may not be the answer you want. But I think the copy, the entire team may end up being a better option. I don't know your exact scenario. So, but thanks, good question.
All right, so from Sherry, she asked, can an assistant have full access to their executive's to-do list or Microsoft Teams to help manage productivity?
That's a good question. So obviously we can do a shared to-do list. And we could also give an assistant full access permissions, but I'd have to test if giving someone full access permissions allows me to access their to-do. There's definitely ways, that you can work around that in terms of using like a planner. But I'd have to test that. That's a good question.
All right. I think this is our last one, just came in from Brenna. If you need to assign multiple people to one task, are you able to do that?
So I'm assuming this is in Planner, and the answer is yes. So I can click and I can add whoever's within that plan in that team easily. So I can add multiple people to this. And those are all assigned on this task. I can also, if I have a personal plan that's stored as my plan, I can add multiple people as well. And then as I add other people, it will invite them. And if I type somebody's name, it will auto search and it says it's a non-member. I can click and it allows me to assign it to them. So yes, you can have multiple people that are on tasks within Planner. Now on the task side itself, if it's a shared task, I don't think I can actually assign to multiple people within, and which is one of the fundamental differences between Planner and tasks is task is much more simplistic. And coming from that genesis as my personal to-do list, it really doesn't have nearly as much in the way of ability to add specific people to things and plan that out. That's where Planner really comes into play. Great, that's a lot of great questions. Really appreciate everyone's time today. I'm kind of glad we were ahead on the demos themselves because we had a lot of great questions and we're pretty much coming up right on time. So next month, we are going to be talking about what to do if you're relatively new to IT, if IT is not your full position. There's a lot of people out there that have IT as their responsibility, but they aren't classically experienced in IT. And we just want to share some of the ways to think about IT, kind of the total scope of what technology is and the way that the industry is shifting in a way that might be useful for you. So if you think that's something that you'd enjoy, then join us next month. We'll be sending out more information on the date and when and how you'd access that soon. So with that, I think we're set. I want to thank everyone for attending, and then also my coworkers, Killian and Rebecca, for doing a great job making all this magic happen. So we'll see you guys next time.